Welcome to Sal Speak, the place to be for hard-hitting analysis from Sal Maiorana of the Democrat and Chronicle.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to DemocratandChronicle.com, our Facebook Live and Periscope today version of the Sal Speak show, podcast, whatever we want to call it, Leo. I'm with Leo Roth, as I always am on these Thursday afternoons.
You can call it whatever you want.
I'll call it whatever I want. Someday CBS or Fox is going to buy this, and we'll be on their network too. But for now, DemocratandChronicle.com, Facebook Live, and Periscope are where we're going to be talking Bills Raiders. And Leo, 4-2. They've surprised us, I think, really all season. I don't think anybody, and certainly not you and I, had this team 4-2 with the Raiders coming to town. But here they are, coming off a great win last week that was certainly a different type of win than we're used to seeing from the Bills. They don't usually win that game, but they did. Do you sense, as the Raiders come to town, that this team is just different? Maybe it's different with McDermott, or do you sense anything different right now with this team?
Yeah, I definitely do, Sal. I think we kind of, a lot of us were in agreement after that last, after the Tampa Bay win. I didn't see him, beating Atlanta, and I didn't see him beating Tampa Bay, quite frankly. Even though the game was at home, I really like Jameis Winston as a quarterback. I think everybody saw how good the young kid is, and the fact that he was able to play, he kind of showed us what he's made of. Hey, that game was, that was really Tampa Bay's game. That was perfect. They have a red-hot passing attack with Winston. All those receivers, they got the ball with, I don't know what it was, 2:18 and all their timeouts, the 2-minute warning. All they got to do is drive down, kick the field goal, and they win that game. But lo and behold, the Bills made the play. Trey White, their playmaking rookie, just have an incredible year. But I think that's the kind of sense that people are getting about this team, Sal, is that even in that situation where people would expect the team to fold, the Bills have this collective belief that, well, we still have a game to play here, and they're coming up with the plays. They have some playmakers. I think that's the biggest thing that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott have brought in, the playmakers, especially in that secondary. And then there's just, and I got to give it up to Sean McDermott. The more I'm around this guy and listen to this guy, you start believing too. Now it's easy to drink the coffee, and I know there's a lot of fans out there, and you can't win in this business, Sal.
No.
As soon as if you want to knock them and rip them, people get mad at you for that. If you want to give them some hope, people will say you're a Pollyanna. It's crazy. Now we're homers. Now we're all, what's wrong with you guys?
Yeah. You can't please everybody, and usually you can't please anybody in this business. That's the frustrating part. But you're right.
You're certainly around. You've been around McDermott a little more than me. And I think he's you might want to roll your eyes a little bit at some of the stuff he says, but I think he's got these guys believing in it just because of the kind of personality he is.
Yeah. They've bought in.
What you see is what you get with this guy, and he believes, and you stick to this. I hate to say the word again, the process, but. And I was talking to Del Rio yesterday, Jack Del Rio with the Raiders on the conference call, and he was uttering the same kinds of things. And Jack Del Rio is a very good, successful coach,
right.
And he talks about the same thing. He says, "We stick with our process. We stick with what we do."
Even when chuckle was heard in the media room.
Exactly. When they lost 4 in a row, there the Raiders, and then of course with their great Kansas City victory. But I say, what do you do different? He says, nothing. You have to believe in what you do, and then you just keep doing it.
Right.
You can't be all over the map. You got to see it through. You want to do something different next year? Fine. But for these 16 games, they have to be true to themselves.
People would say that in the previous 2 years, the players bought in to Rex Ryan. Well, that was because they enjoyed playing for Rex Ryan. They enjoyed the atmosphere around the team. He was loosey-goosey. They could do whatever they wanted. He is a player's coach. You hear that a lot, a player's coach. He really is. He likes his players. He becomes buddies with them, and he gives them a lot of freedom. Sean McDermott is not like that. But Sean McDermott is a disciplinarian, but his process, they've bought into it because I think they believe in it. I don't know if they ever believed in Rex's process. I think they just enjoyed playing for him because he was a fun-loving guy. This guy has a plan, has a culture set in place, and I think they're buying into that. Yeah. And you're seeing the results by buying into it. They're playing better. They're a more cohesive team on both sides of the ball.
But both ways win, I think, Sal, too. I think we agree on that. So
you can win that.
Rex Ryan won with his way.
Right.
He has. People forget. He's a very good coach.
He was a goofball, but
it went south fast
coach
for him in Buffalo and then with the Jets. But his the way he ran things did work. I think it's what the key is that the players have to see that it is working.
Right.
And I tell you what, a win like last week wow, the confidence that provides is huge. I mean, being 4-2 instead of what would they have been?
They would have been
3-3. It's a minuscule, but it's huge. It's one game, but it's huge.
This isn't baseball where you 162 games. This is football. There's only 16 of these. You can't throw away opportunities, and really, you could say Tampa Bay did. Tampa Bay threw away an opportunity to win that game. They rallied, came back, took the lead late, and then they made some mistakes that cost them the game. What I liked mostly, and we'll talk a little bit about this game because it was a fun game to watch. It was a fun game to write about. What I was really impressed by, and we talk about this culture, this buy-in. Last year, if Tampa Bay had taken that lead against Rex Ryan's team, would the Bills have come out on the next series and on the very next play, the very first play, I should say, of that series, throw a bomb to a guy named Deontay Thompson? I don't think so. I love the way these guys realize we've got to do this right now. We have to attack. We've got 3 minutes to go. We can't go nickel and diamond down the field. I like that. And I think players see that. McDermott, Rick Dennison, the coordinator, put confidence in Tyrod Taylor. He said, hey, you got to go win the game. Now let's go win it. Let's not screw around here with draw plays and screen passes. Let's go get it. And they did. And they made a big play at a big time. I like that about that win.
Yeah, Dennison's getting a lot of credit, rightfully so. I think he's calling a great game so far, and you're really getting everyone in.
I thought, wait a minute. I thought he called a crappy game against the Bengals, and then last week he made up for it.
Well, every game's different. Every game plays out different.
Yeah.
Right. The guy.
I thought he was lousy in the Bengals.
You want to talk about the ups and downs? The play callers have those
now
things.
That's a guy who can never make anybody happy, right?
Yeah.
The coordinators in the NFL never make anybody happy.
No, absolutely not. But I like moving forward a little bit. Once they got that takeaway, Trey White's play, and then they still had some work to do to get in a position to kick the field goal.
Right.
And the play that I really liked was of course with Taiwan Jones throwing this pass run. We didn't know what it was at first.
Like a little shovel.
And the fact they're calling that guy too in that situation was really critical. I got the most interesting thing I've been thinking about, Sal, is that what if they don't get that first down?
I know
they might be punting.
They would have punted.
Would you think they would have, even though you got Hauschka, who's amazing this year, Mr. 50-yarder. In that situation, if he misses, you're giving the ball back.
You read my mind because I was going to bring that up. If Taiwan Jones had gotten stopped for even a loss or even a short gain, I don't think the Bills would have kicked the field goal. It would have been, I think it would have been like a 53 or 4-yard field goal from that line of scrimmage.
Even though it's a beautiful day,
but you know what?
You got the guy. It might be too risky.
I watched him kick I think the 52-yarder went that way earlier in the game, and he did not. He's made some 50-yarders this year that would have been good from 60. That one, I think there was a little breeze in his face going in that direction, and I'm not sure it would have been worth the risk because if he misses, it would have been Tampa's ball at the 43-yard line or whatever it would have been. Now there's less than whatever it was, a minute and a half to go. They're almost 30 yards from field goal range.
Yeah.
They would have punted, and that game probably would have gone to overtime. So that was a huge play. Who the hell's Taiwan Jones?
I know.
Well, he played for the Raiders for 4 or 5 years, so they're going to see him this week. He's a third, but this is one of the things you wrote about. This is what you wrote about in your column, how these no-name guys, last week in particular, there were 4 or 5 of them that stepped up and played huge roles in this game. And again, we all thought this roster, and I still kind of believe it, is a very thin roster from top to bottom. I think there's a lot of holes, but at least for one day, there were some guys that really showed that maybe their depth isn't as bad as we thought it was.
Because the other thing we hear about a lot, Sal, is the other buzzword is next man up. Everyone talks about the next man up. Well, let's be serious.
They didn't have many next
men up. A lot of times
up.
The next man up on an NFL roster, it's really not that.
Right.
You need to have 2 or 3 men up to equal the starter that just got hurt. Sometimes the drop off at some positions is really drastic.
Yeah.
Now, for the Bills to sign this, to bring in Thompson off the street, to get a play out of Jones, to get other plays out of their DB Johnson contributed a turnover. Milano gets an interception. Yeah. For this day, like you said, it
was crazy.
It worked. Their depth on their roster came through for them. Now, over the course of a long grind yet, we're going to see. Now, they're going to get healthy. They're going to get some people back. But this weekend, we can phase into what we're facing here. They're missing 2. They're probably going to be missing 2 guys out of their secondary.
Well, we can get to this now. We might as well segue right into it. Look, the big issue this week for this game, as we look forward now, is Oakland's passing game is dynamic. No Marshawn Lynch this week, which probably isn't even a big deal.
It isn't a big deal.
Because he wasn't having a great year. They haven't run the ball very well with Lynch or the other guy, the backup. Who's the backup?
Well, it's going to be Jalen Richard.
Jalen Richard. So
and
Jalen Richard.
Yeah.
Right. So
he's actually pretty good. He's a good pass catcher.
All right.
He might be better. He's younger, and he averages more yards per carry. Actually, not a bad little player.
The Raiders aren't going to make their hay this week running the ball.
No.
It's going to be Derek Carr.
He's going to throw. He'll throw 50 times if he has to.
Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, the tight end Jared Cook is a good player. They've got other guys that they rotate in. They have a dynamic passing offense. 417 yards last week against a really good Kansas City team. Their defense isn't great, but Kansas City is still a good team. They're probably going to win that division.
Did you see the end of that game?
I did.
It was
that was
NFL
amazing. Central, right?
I love that game. That was something.
It's crazy. Anyways, Oakland's going to be passing the ball. The Bills have some issues with injuries. If Jordan Poyer, the safety, who you can make a case, Leo, might be the best defensive player on the team right now. He's been all over the place. He fills the stat sheet all the way across. If they don't have him, and they're probably not going to have E.J. Gaines, the cornerback. Now, whoever, E.J. Gaines is not exactly a Pro Bowler, but on this team, he's a functional starting cornerback. They're going to be, if they're down 2 starting.
He's better than their backup.
He is. Sharice Wright is a train wreck. If they're down 2 DBs against Derek Carr, I have a lot of worry about this game, and it's going to be one of those days where Tyrod Taylor better be at his best because he might have to win a shootout if the Bills are going to win. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah. Taylor. Now, listen. Last week, Taylor in that offense put up 30 points. That's pretty good. Of course, Tampa Bay has their issues defensively, but that was a really strong performance. That's way above their average. They needed it. They needed every point. This, and of course, the flip side of the Raiders. Now, the Raiders were 12-4 last year. Their Super Bowl run got derailed by the injury to Derek Carr. But they've struggled this year in the 4-game losing streak. But one of those was a 1-point loss. I think they had another 10-point loss in there. They're finding their way, and if they know how important this game is to saving their year here. They're going to come in here very, very prepared, very ready. And they've also had the 3 extra days rest to prepare.
That's another thing. You get a West Coast team coming east, usually it's an advantage, and it was the Denver game as an example. I'm not sure I buy a whole lot into that.
Right, but it's a factor.
But this is nullified because they played on Thursday. They had the extra 3 days rest. So coming east won't be, you would think, as big a deal for the Raiders this time.
And defensively, defensively, they got Khalil Mack. So
are we done talking about offense? Defense?
Well, I'm just saying you were wondering about Tyrod Taylor's got to match points.
Right.
Well, he's facing a better defense.
He is.
Than Tampa Bay.
They're not great. They're in the 20s in their rankings.
But they have a big play potential every play.
Do you realize, though, you talk about big play potential, they're the only
team have no
interceptions in the league without an interception.
I'm going to say that.
That's pretty odd.
But they have like 9 forced fumbles, something like that.
Yeah. They've got some good players on that side.
And they got the number 1. They got the defensive player of the year, Khalil Mack, returning to Buffalo.
Yeah.
He's not talking.
He's not talking about that.
Apparently he's got a little rift with his alma mater. Doesn't have a lot of warm and fuzzy feelings about coming home to Buffalo, where he made his star and was a top 5 pick.
It really, let's just segue to that real quick. That really irritates me. That kid coming out of Florida was not recruited by, I don't think, more than a handful of Division I schools. UB gave him the break. They brought him up, and he probably should have been more heavily recruited given what he became.
Yeah.
But he comes to UB, and he becomes a star. Their greatest player in the history of that not very illustrious program, but still, their best player ever. He gets drafted number 5 overall, and he's so thankful to UB, and now he's become a star. And I don't know exactly what happened, but he basically has distanced himself from the university.
Yeah.
And one of our colleagues, Bucky Gleason from the News, actually called over to UB yesterday.
Yeah.
Because they were looking to do a story, obviously. They had sent out one of their reporters, I think last year, to Oakland, and he refused to talk to the Buffalo News.
Yeah, Tim Graham, he wouldn't talk.
So they called yesterday to UB. What's going on with this guy? And they said they're perplexed. They're not quite sure what's going on, why he has distanced himself. I guess there was a rumor that UB didn't recruit his brother, maybe, and that could be part of it.
Oh.
And they also dismissed the coach that had brought him in, who's no longer there, Jeff Quinn. So maybe that has something to do with it, but it just seems really disingenuous to me that he would turn his back on UB, the one school that gave him an opportunity to go be what he's become. Anyways, I'm off the soapbox.
Well, they need to have a little. Sounds like they need a little sit down here.
They need to come to Jesus
and iron some things out.
They do.
Now, I don't think he's pissed at the Bills for not drafting him.
No.
But that might be a little bit of a thing too.
Well,
the
they
heck with
traded
Buffalo.
up. The Bills that year were hell-bent on getting a receiver. They traded up. They got Sammy Watkins, number 4, and Mac went the next pick. I don't think Mac can argue about that.
Don't you? I mean, I'm writing about Mac for tomorrow.
Hey, Mac would have been gone if the Bills had stayed put, so you can't be mad at the Bills.
They would have been, but I mean, when that trade went down, we're going, hey, they're going for Mac.
Yeah.
And
The Watkins pick was surprising.
And they yanked Watkins. And that was Doug Whaley. He goes, we believe this guy is going to get us to the playoffs.
Yeah.
That was Whaley's comment that
So
day.
much for that.
And of course, Khalil Mack, best pass rusher, AFL or the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He got his team to the playoffs way before Buffalo. And it's just to me though, yeah, Mack would have been gone, but I think the Bills were picking 9th.
They were 9th that year.
It's not like they didn't know about Khalil Mack and they did their homework on him. He's right in their backyard and they knew all about him. But that's the kind of instead of making that play to go up and get, that's a franchise defensive player for the next 10 years, and they let it go away.
I know. All right,
Anyway,
let's answer a few questions here. I can't do it on Periscope, but I can do it on Facebook. I hope you're still there in Periscope, but we'll get a couple things straightened out. Yes, we know they're not the LA Raiders. That was just a little mistake that somebody made. I won't call anybody out here on a live Facebook, but yeah, we know they're the Oakland Raiders, and just know that I'm not an idiot. I didn't do that. I do follow the NFL, so sorry about that. Gregory Paul says, takeaways. He's right. The Bills are number 1 in the league right now in turnover margin, plus 10. That's fantastic. The key there, they've only turned it over 3. The defense has been getting takeaways, but it's really impressive that the Bills, and we kind of knocked Tyrod Taylor for this, not taking chances, but still, only 3 turnovers. One of them was a McCoy fumble last week. That's very impressive. So that will be a big part in this game. I think the Bills are going to need to continue to do that on defense. If they can get some short fields, they can do some damage, and you don't want to be giving Derek Carr a short field. So they better protect the ball and not give it away.
Yeah, last year's game, Khalil Mack sacked, forced fumble recovery on Taylor at the end of that game. So he knows all about Khalil Mack. Now, and just real quick on Taylor, I mean, that's one of his great strengths is that he scores well in a QBR situation because it factors in things that help you win. What helps you win? He runs the ball and he doesn't turn it over.
Yep, those all factor in.
So those are factors in
the QBR, not the passer rating.
Yeah, not the rating,
doesn't count for that.
but in the things that help a team win, and those things obviously help you win. And so
all right, Gregory Paul also wants to know, is Thompson for real moving forward, or is he a one-hit wonder? Well, that's a good question. I mean, he's bounced around a bit. He played for the Ravens, was with the Bears this year, and now he's with the Bills. The Bears cut him for some reason. It was funny in the locker room Sunday.
I don't know why. He had played 5. He was playing for them. He started 3 games for them.
Yeah, he got called into John Fox's office, not even having any idea that they were going to cut him. He was kind of surprised. So the Bills jumped on it because they are devoid, as we know, of wide receivers. So they took a chance, and lo and behold, 4 catches, 107 yards, and including one of the biggest plays of the game. So I don't know if he's for real or not. Let's face it, Tampa Bay maybe didn't have. Well, they had no film of him in the Buffalo offense. So maybe they caught him by surprise there. I don't know, but I can tell you this: he should start Sunday over Zay Jones. There's no doubt about it.
I think
he's got NFL experience. He should start right now.
Zay Jones should maybe not go on the bench.
Right.
He needs to not be the starter.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on him.
He's got a lot of pressure. We were talking to him yesterday, and it almost drips off him how, he's very well spoken, a great young man, but he's saying all the right things, but it's just not happening for him. And I think it's almost like last week, and every week it seems like him and Taylor just trying to force some kind of chemistry.
He threw 9 balls his way.
Yeah, and it's just, and how many of them were just,
a
lot of them were uncatchable.
Exactly. Let's break it down.
But a lot of them, maybe he wasn't that open. I don't know.
There were 9 balls thrown his way. I think he dropped 2. Well, one was a sheer drop, and I think one,
maybe
he could have made the play, and it got knocked, whatever it was. A few of them were uncatchable, and then a couple of them, I think Tyrod forced it in. The coverage was good. He didn't beat his man, and they were either broken up or whatever happened. But you got to catch more than 2 out of 9, right? I mean, and it's been a trend for the last few weeks now.
Yeah, it's hard. I think he just needs to maybe, you'll be the third guy in. We'll use you a lot.
Well,
you don't have to be the guy.
The problem with not the problem.
And there's not a number one to take the pressure off the kid.
That's one of the key issues. But this kid is a slot receiver. He really shouldn't be. And people wonder, what's the difference? There is a big difference. The coverage is different on the inside receiver than it is on the outside guys. He played slot. He played both in college, but he did most of his best work in the slot. The Bills have had him outside out of necessity because they trade Sammy Watkins and Anquan Bolden, quit on him. Then Jordan Matthews gets hurt. They have nobody else to put out there.
Yeah.
I think if they start Deontay Thompson with Jordan Matthews and you use Zay Jones in the slot, I think it takes a little bit of the pressure off him and maybe gets him back to a territory that's perhaps a little more familiar to him.
Yeah, and Matthews seems to be still slowed there with the thumb. He's going to be, that'll take a little while yet. So he's almost just like a possession guy that you got to throw to, and that's what he is. So I don't know, but as far as the reader want to know, yeah, Thompson, I think it'd be great to see him start maybe, and he's got some speed. He brings some speed to it.
He does.
I don't think he'll be as wide open as he was on that play against Tampa Bay. That was a shocker.
Yeah, well, they're 31st in pass.
They just
you
blew.
could have expected something would happen.
They blew it was a wheel route thing. They blew it. They total blown coverage and wide open, and everyone's waiting for that ball to get there, and it did.
Yeah, it was great.
Enough time for him to get creamed by the defensive back.
Mike Weber is saying special teams a big improvement over last year, especially the kicker. Hauschka was a huge get. He even makes extra points. Yeah, he does. He makes extra points. Look, special teams, there's really not much in the return game anymore. It's almost like a foreign object in football.
God, isn't it?
There's no more kickoff returns. The punt returns, all the punters kick it high, and they end up being fair catches. So really, your special teams boils down to your kicker and your punter. Your punter has to be good enough to prevent the return. Hauschka has been tremendous. He's missed 2. He missed on opening day, I think, 45, and he missed last week from 41. But he's made 14 out of 16. Every one of them, like 5 of 5 from outside 50, I think it is now. And he kicks the ball into the end zone generally. So you're right. He's been a great catch for them. And I love when you have a good kicker and he's locked up for like 3 or what I think he's on a 3-year deal. That position is solid. They're not going anywhere with that position for a while.
One thing Buffalo has done well historically.
They've had kickers.
They have a good kicker.
They've had good kickers. Carpenter wasn't a terrible kicker.
He wasn't.
He became a head case on extra points.
He was great for many, many years. After Lindell, after Chris, go on and on. They've had kickers. They've had kickers go for a decade, and they've had punters go that long as well.
Yeah.
The punter always the best player in Buffalo. Go figure, right?
Tom McDonald wants to know who cares. The NFL is a disgrace. So I guess Tom is no longer watching us, but I don't know. Say what you want about the NFL. It's pretty popular, and we're working because of the NFL. So I'm going to stick with the NFL. I think it's perfectly fine. I have my issues with it, but
he's talking about. I don't know if he's talking about the quality of play, the parody, or the anthem dealing.
Right. It's probably a little bit of both. All 3.
Hey. Free country. People don't want to watch sports. Don't watch.
That's right. I prefer Major League Baseball to the NFL, but the NFL is my job, so I'm going to defend the NFL here. All right. Let's see. Why all this talk of trading good players? This is David Goldtree. Why all this talk of trading good players from the Bills team that doesn't have much depth and has had a surprising season? He's probably talking about my story yesterday. Look, Cordy Glenn. They've already taken calls. There was a report a couple weeks ago. The Seahawks had inquired about Cordy Glenn because their offensive line's been a mess for a couple years. On Monday, Sunday, Cleveland lost Joe Thomas, their great left tackle. Then on Monday, the Philadelphia Eagles lost Jason Peters, their all-pro left tackle. They're a playoff team, so that's a hole they might need to fill. And even the Redskins lost 2 offensive linemen. So there's a need for quality offensive linemen. The Bills are in a good position leverage-wise. They've got 5 tackles on the roster. When you factor Cordy Glenn, Deion Dawkins, Jordan Mills, and then Connor McDermott, and I'm the 5th guy I'm braining on here. There's 5. Oh, Chantrell Henderson. They've got 5 tackles. They're in a position of strength where they could deal one of these guys and, again, build up that draft pick reservoir.
What would you take for Glenn?
Cordy Glenn is the most...
Think someone would give a second round?
I don't know if they get him a second-round pick. He might be a third-round pick and maybe a player coming back. But if you're the Eagles, you're desperate. So maybe you can drive the price up. Now, I talked to our good buddy Mike Catalana today, who's a big Eagles fan, and he says the Eagles wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't trade for Cordy Glenn. They think they can fill his role from within. So maybe it wouldn't happen. But look, the trade deadline is Halloween, which is, I think, Tuesday. I would not be surprised if they move on from Cordy Glenn. I think they were a bit disappointed, Leo, with the way he came back from his injury. I heard rumblings that they were questioning his work ethic as he was battling back from that. Now, he did play last week. Remember the Bengals game, he was active and played 4 snaps on the kicking game. He played, I think, 85% of the snaps, something like that, on Sunday. So maybe he's back healthy and he's in their good graces again. But that's a salary that you can unload. It's a $9 million cap hit next year. I wouldn't be shocked if they do it. But the reader is also right. The Bills are 4-2, and you wouldn't want to give away a piece like that unless you're really sure that Deion Dawkins can jump right in, be the left tackle, and you're satisfied having Mills and Henderson.
Well,
on the right
this
side.
kind of goes back to Brandon Beane and McDermott talking about trying to serve two masters, winning now and preparing for the future.
Tough thing
if
to
they
do.
can, believe me, the way this regime has been, if something is right out there, and it's not too insanely going to damage what they're trying to do this year, very, very clearly, I would not be shocked at all that Brandon Beane pulls some kind of move on Tuesday. But he's
seems
pretty
to be a traitor.
But he's not shy, but he seems very shrewd. I don't see anything that's going to upset this too much. And boy, if they could get some high pick for Cordy Glenn,
I don't see them getting much more than a third. I really don't.
Only because Cordy Glenn is not the Cordy Glenn of 2 years ago or even last year. So he's got a little bit of some issues there. But then again, he's got a lot of football left in him, and I could see it happening. But I don't know if I want to give up a good left tackle either for a third round or lower either.
Well, like I said, though, they do think they have their guy. They like Deion Dawkins, and they've been playing him at left tackle. Even in training camp, he was working at left tackle mostly. So, and he's their guy.
Yeah.
So that's why it wouldn't surprise me if they really think that he can step right in and play. And then you leave Jordan Mills and Chantrell Henderson and whoever else on the right side.
And when you're rebuilding, that frees up a lot of money. When you got these affordable young guys, that frees up money for another position where they're going to need.
I'm not saying I'm advocating it, but it just wouldn't surprise me, and I wouldn't be too heartbroken if it happened. All right, a couple more, and then we're going to roll out of here. I know there were a couple Yankees questions on here. Joe Girardi has left the Yankees. I'm not quite sure if he was fired or he quit on his own, mutual parting. So my thought on this, Leo, you don't care about baseball too much, but somebody wants to know. Yes, I was never really a big Girardi fan.
Did you like Girardi?
No,
I thought it was.
I've never really been a Girardi fan, and I'm okay with them parting ways. It'll be interesting to see who comes in, and I have no idea who that would be. I don't follow it. I don't know the back channels of baseball to know who's even a candidate. But all I know, Leo, is that Yankees team is going to be, I think, very good for a couple years. And whoever steps into this job, A, it's New York, but B, the pressure will be great because there's going to be big expectations.
The roster is in good shape. He leaves it in pretty good shape, I would say. And
he did. I'm surprised. I don't think they fired him, but I think it was more a mutual thing, and he was thinking about he's tired and he wants to recharge. But man, walking away from that team, that could end up being a mistake.
What was your biggest knock on Girardi? Some of his pitching moves.
He has. We call him Binder Boy, and he does everything by the book. And it really there's situation. He knows more baseball than I do, obviously, but a lot of fans felt the same way, that he just did too much by the book and didn't have
enough
feel and sense of the moment. And that's what I think they.
Like I know a lot of times you'd always recite this. Well, in these situations, the left-hander and the righty, and this is what the percentages are. If you get so wrapped up into that, then you're not.
That's what baseball has become. Yeah. But there's just a point where you have to your eyes have to tell you something.
You got to know how a guy. Why walk to the mound and ask and have a chat?
Yeah.
If you're not going to.
So that was my biggest thing with Girardi. So hey, moving on. Good for the Yankees. Hope they find somebody.
I thought he was classic Yankee though.
Yeah, he was.
Obviously,
he was just a tense. He was a tension ball all the time.
Yeah.
He hated doing press conferences, so I'm sure the writers are going to be happy, but. Whatever. All right, last thing we're going to do here. Michael Avent Sr. says, Tyrod, don't turn the ball over. Less penalties are all great, but they won't let Tyrod call audibles. They improved last week with different plays. They're still in the learning stages. People need to stop bashing. All right, well, I'll give you that. Tyrod Taylor, I thought, played one of his best games as a Bill.
Oh, absolutely.
Week. Doesn't mean that this week he's going to go back to the Tyrod that has driven me nuts for a couple of years and probably you, but I'll give him his credit. I thought he played well. He made a huge play on that pass to Thompson. So, yeah, right now, thumbs up for Tyrod Taylor. Let's see moving forward.
Well, I'll give Taylor his props for this. He got it done last week, and he's got it done so far with a receiving core that really.
They're 4-2.
The only guy that could really make hay with receivers like this would be Tom Brady, who can play with anybody.
You and me, I think.
Absolutely, he could. So I give Taylor credit for that, and I give the coordinators and the coaches for cobbling out something that is working offensively. It worked. Offense was offense was huge last week. They don't win that game without
would not have won that
without
game.
them coming alive, because the defense had its moments there. And that's the big thing, is was this defense exposed enough so that the Oakland Raiders are feeling pretty good coming in here on Sunday.
Yep. All right, we're going to wrap it up. We hope you enjoyed our weekly Thursday show on Facebook and on Periscope. So we'll be at the game Sunday. Like I said, it's a big game. The Bills.
Big game.
Think about this, Leo. The Bills, in a week and say 7 hours from now, could be 6-2 if they win and then go to New York and win.
Thursday night or next week.
They could be 4-4 too, but they could be 6-2. That would be something else. All right, for Leo, I am Sal. DemocratandChronicle.com. Follow our stories right there, and we'd appreciate it. So until next week, I think Wednesday next week, Leo, because I'll be traveling. You'll be traveling with me. Thursday. We're doing it Wednesday next week. So we'll see you then. Take care.